and welcome to Sarah Sessions about everything that inspires our heart, inspires our soul, and brings upon healing within ourselves and people around us. Today I am with Nicole Webster, an ocean conservation journalist, and she is a wonderful woman that I've met here on Utila during my travels. She is an underwater photographer and has had a couple of articles come out in, amongst others, The Diver, which is a magazine that has been around the world, and you will find mostly in diver shops, but you can also order online. And I decided to do this episode because I found her journey very interesting and her energy very inspiring. So, welcome, Nicole. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we had a little moment to just set our intentions for this podcast, and we've been able to come to the conclusion that everything that we live leads to this moment. It seems that we lose ourselves a lot in our thoughts. Oh no, I've gone this way or I've gone that way, and I've taken the wrong path or the right path. Yet truly our path is already written, and we just need to lean in with curiosity to find what's really vibrating within us and for us.
Exactly. The universe will always bring to you what you are giving, what your vibrations are giving out into the world. So I 100% believe that.
I agree.
Especially after the last couple of years that I've had.
Especially after COVID, that really
Yes.
Opens our minds and opens our eyes to what we truly want, and coming back into alignment with the self, because that is where our qualities and our gifts are best brought up to serve the world that surrounds us. So tell me and some of our listeners, what is exactly an ocean journalist according to you?
Yes.
Just so that people can get an idea and feedback on it.
Sure. So in journalism, a lot of journalists will have a niche that they write about, or they work for a specific newspaper or magazine, and they have a specific focus that they do. I don't work for a specific company. I essentially am a freelancer. However, on the journalism side of things, of course, so an ocean journalism is my niche for journalism. Just how you can have a travel journalist, or somebody that focuses on war, or someone that focuses has a different focus. My focus is on the ocean, so I write stories and I do all the photography for my stories as well. And my stories are anything to do with the ocean. I want to tell the ocean story because I believe it is one of the most important stories of humankind, of human history. And it's extremely important for people to understand and know what is happening in the ocean, because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you have an impact on the ocean, whether you've ever seen it in your life or not. Everything leads back to the ocean. If it wasn't for the ocean, life on this planet would literally not exist. So.
Wonderful, thank you. So, despite having only been near the ocean as a child once in California, you went back to the Midwest and somehow had this passion for the ocean, this draw towards the ocean. Can you tell me more about how you got into this ocean journalism?
Yes.
I mean,
what a long journey it's been. It has been my whole life has really been everything has been evolving up until to this point. Um, so I didn't live anywhere near the ocean as a child growing up. I came from the Midwest, very cold winters, but I really developed, I don't know where the passion came from, honestly. It just, like I said, it was one day in California with my family, and then from the moment I can remember, I told my mom I want to live next to the ocean. When I grow up, I want the ocean to be my backyard. And my mom's reply was, "Well, you better have a lot of money," which is funny because I live next to the ocean right now, and I do not have a lot of money. So
it's funny how what we assume needs a lot of money and presume that we have to go a certain path to get there is actually not the way to get there. So we have a destination in mind, but it's not actually the way everybody thinks that destination is.
Similar with, traveling. Traveling in general, people think to travel the world you have to have all this money, but you really don't. Like, you just, there's ways. It's just about figuring it out.
So you were a child, and during your trips, your road trips, you used to write all the stories from National Geographics down in your notepad while you were in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I have no idea why I did that. I don't know. So my family, my grandparents lived about 5 hours away from where we lived. So we would have long car rides. Every couple months we would be going to visit family, and I would either be reading in the car or writing a journal, or I don't know where this came from, but I would just have a notebook, a plain notebook, and just transcribe National Geographic stories. Specifically, I love pandas. That's, I don't know where, again, as a child, I just developed a love for panda bears. And so I remember National Geographic stories about pandas, and I was like, oh, I love this. And I would just transcribe the story word for word and in my notebooks. Yeah, I don't know. And I was a natural born writer. Writing has always come very easily to me, and it's something I enjoy. You have to enjoy what you do. So.
Or so we like to believe so. So after your childhood, we'll come back to your high school years or your teenage years, but somehow your parents divorced and you decided to go and live in Florida to do your college, and you went to the University of Miami to study journalism. And once you finished that with a lot of ups and downs, you went into waitressing and then decided to get out of the box. How did that impact the way you decided to go towards your destination of living by the ocean? And using that writing skills or all the skills that you learned in school, did you ever think that it would come to this, to where you are now? Because you stepped away from it.
Yes. Yeah. Right? No, not exactly. I definitely diverged from my path quite a bit. Over the years, I started developing things little by little, every step of the way. Things just started to evolve. So I had this passion for the ocean. I had this passion for writing. I've always had a creative, artistic side, and so that's how I got into journalism in the first place. And developing a love for travel, I think because growing up in the Midwest, I never felt like I belonged there. It never felt like home to me. So I always, dreamed of faraway places, going to live in faraway places, and I figured, I love writing, I love traveling. Let's try to make this into a career so I can get paid to do this, and make a living this way. This is what I want to do with my life: travel the world and write. That was the basis. That was like the foundation of everything, was travel the world and write. And living in Miami for 10 years, as a young adult, really, I got tons and tons of experiences, and I was finally next to the ocean. I was finally living on a daily basis, seeing the ocean, being able to interact with it, and just deepening my love for it. And it was, after college, I didn't really know where to go and what to do. I kind of lost myself because I found myself not being able to find a job, after college. I grew up thinking, with my parents always saying, oh, just go to college, get a bachelor's degree, and you're going to get a job. But in the real world, especially in today's age, especially for a creative person, that is not the case. It is more like 80 to 90% connections, and then the other 20% talent. So,
and learn skills.
Yes, and learn skills. Obviously, that does go a long way. But I got lost. A lot of people get lost. I got lost. I lost myself. I lost alignment with my inner being as well. And I found myself in the service industry, the hospitality industry, for about 5 years. That was a very draining industry.
It made a lot of money.
It made a lot of money. Yes, it funded everything that I have now. But it was draining on my spirit, on my life. But it did push me to be like, okay, how do I get out of this? What can I do? How can I work with the ocean? And that's how that led me to scuba diving.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing research and reading like I always do. I found Utila, Honduras, and found out that it was one of the cheapest, best places in the world to get certified in scuba diving. And so I booked a one-way trip there. I contacted Utila Dive Center and was like, I want to do open water to dive master. Here's my money. I'm coming this date. And I'd never tried scuba diving before in my life, and I spent a couple $1,000s on it, knowing I would love it. I did have the idea at the time I wanted to get into underwater photography, but hadn't really evolved the ocean journalism thing quite at that point. So, the scuba diving definitely came first, but I knew that the main reason I kept going in scuba diving as like professional wise is to work in the industry, to work with the ocean and close to it and have it in my life on a daily basis, but B, to also become a good underwater photographer. Because to be a good underwater photographer, you have to be a good diver.
And to be able to have that kind of niche, why is it that niche is so important?
So in journalism, so when I was in journalism school, at the University of Miami, we had an older reporter from the Miami Herald come and talk to our class one day, and he was like, walked into the classroom full of journalism students, and he says, "Change your major." And he's like,
Professor.
And his point in saying that was, he was like, change your major. He's like, journalism is not what it used to be. It's not, it's not your average, okay, I go and work for CNN and I become a travel reporter or whatever. It's not the same as it used to be. And it's not as easy to get into that kind of sustainable journalism work. And he's like, you have to have a niche if you're going to do this job as a career. And so that always stuck with me. Him telling us that you have to have a niche in this industry always stuck in the back of my head.
You already had some ideas. I'm sorry, to cut you off. You already had some ideas of environmental rights and injustices and human rights and all of that kind of was the basis of why you got into journalism, it seems, and then it kind of changed in your second year after that photography class and that teacher, which kind of reoriented you. How does that reorientation come and give us how does that reorientation become the catalyst to something so much grander in our life? For example, your destination was unknown, yet your journey unfolded on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had to redirect a few times from going from journalism to human rights to environmental issues to devastations.
I like to think of it as an evolution. Just in following my heart and following my passion. Something in me, no matter how lost I was on my journey, something always kept the ocean and writing and traveling close to my heart, and I was always trying to get back to that. When I was having journalism training, it was in journalism school when I got into photography in the first place. My photography professor was a Nat Geo photographer. She had done a lot of work in Haiti back in like the 80s, 90s. And so, I guess just the evolution of everything. I'm not sure. I'm kind of losing my train of thought.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Basically, what I was wondering is how has that changed your perspective on where you're going in your journey versus what you had expected to get to, that destination part of our life where we take, for example, journalism in the idea of writing about human rights or injustices or environmental conservation, and coming away from that to becoming a waitress and making lots of money and having some situation kind of change us and say, why aren't I doing something that inspires me and makes my heart happy? It's that catalyst of, oh, wait, this is exciting for me. Why don't I take that scuba diving course? Why don't I throw myself into something unknown fully and completely and create and see where it brings me instead of having that destination and choosing, okay, well, I have to go from here to here to here. And a lot of people have that planning in mind in their life and often get upset when the planning is not happening. Yet the result of leading your life through experiencing the journeys that show up, experiencing those situations that show up, and leaning into curiosity, I think brings us to much greater perspective and greater evolution of oneself, of one's job, of our passions, our hobbies, and bringing you to here, living diver's paradise, and doing your photography, doing your journalism, writing those articles, being part of a community that actually brings awareness and knowledge about the ocean. So,
I mean, because the catalyst for me, there was, I would say there was a few catalysts in that kind of kept pushing me, getting me back on my path, back on the right journey. After college, I went back to Wisconsin for about a year and a half, had a pretty bad relationship over there, and at the end of that relationship, I was like, I need to go back to the ocean. I was like, this is not for me. Like, I tried looking for jobs over there, professional type jobs, quote unquote professional. And I couldn't do it. And so that pushed me back to the ocean. And I was like, I'm going back to Miami. And then once I was in Miami, I was in the hospitality industry for about 5 years there. And it was, like I said before, it's a very soul sucking industry. And the catalyst to get me out of that was honestly just scuba diving, being part of that community. After I did my dive master in Utila, I went back to Miami and I got a job at a scuba diving shop in Miami. However, it was on a part-time on-call basis because it didn't pay that much, and obviously Miami is a very expensive city to live in. So I, was still working full-time as a server, but also made time for scuba diving. I ended up doing my instructor course in Miami. From there, I was like, I need to go back to Utila to do the photography course. Because Utila Dive Center, where I did all my initial training, offers an amazing professional level photography course. And I had known about that, so that was my goal for the next year and a half. I saved my money from serving and was like, okay, I really want to get into underwater photography. I know this is the course that's going to get me there. So I went back in 2019 to Utila. So this was, 2017 I did open water to dive master. 2019 I came back to do the photography course. It was during the middle of the photography course when the instructor, Ash, he was like, offered me a job. He was like, come stay, work at UDC on a freelance basis, shooting fun divers and selling photo packages to the fun divers. That around that same time, I was getting into a serious relationship, and all of a sudden it was like the universe had finally heard me, and everything I had been manifesting was starting to come together. The boyfriend I had at the time, amazing guy, he was like, ironically, him and his best friend had this plan to open a bed and breakfast in Roatan, which is the sister island to Utila. and he was like, he invited me to come and live with him and run the bed and breakfast. And so it was like, wow, I have this amazing boyfriend who wants to take me away to an island. Right next to the island, I just got an underwater photography job offer. I was like, this is amazing. Everything's coming together. Finally, I can get out of the service industry. And I had already made that in my mind. I was like, as soon as I turn 30, I do not want to be a waitress anymore. I just don't want to do it. And so, of course, as soon as I turned 30, I quit serving and, got all these opportunities. Came to Utila, did the photo course, and then left Utila. A couple weeks later, the job got indefinitely put on hold because of a very, very sad, unfortunate event. One of the main people of Utila Dive Center passed away.
Andy Phillips.
Yeah, Andy Phillips. He's a pretty big legend within the PADI dive community around the world. We were very blessed and lucky to have him here. But yes, he was a very big component, and because of all of that and the changes after he passed, the position was put on hold. And so and then, like I said, as soon as I left Utila, things started to go downhill for me. It was a super, super high for a short amount of time, and I was like riding this wave, and then all of a sudden the wave started to crash on me. My boyfriend, his investors fell through for the Roton plan, so that was axed, and of course the position here got postponed, so all of a sudden these things fell apart, and I kind of lost myself again because I wasn't sure what to do. I was still living in Miami. I was living with my boyfriend, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. So I tried going back to serving again, because I needed money. Got a job as, one of the highest paying serving jobs of my life. Lasted a couple of months and I couldn't do it anymore and I quit. And then, COVID happened. I feel like everyone has that story, and then COVID happened.
But your boyfriend at the time was looking for a job and found a job in, out of all places, in Nevada.
Yeah.
In the middle of the desert.
So during this roadblock, I was helping my boyfriend finish his master's degree, which he was getting his master's in underwater archaeology. And he finished his master's literally right around the time COVID popped up. And so he graduated and started looking for jobs during the middle of COVID, which is, a hard enough task on its own. He ended up finding a job with the government in the middle of Nevada, in the middle of the desert. Mind you, he had just graduated with underwater archaeology. So it's very ironic. From the start of our relationship, like, we're gonna go live on the islands and be island people, to we're gonna go live in the desert.
Very far from what we expect.
Yes, right? Yeah. So we moved across country from Miami to Nevada in the middle of COVID, which was great fun. And I got to Nevada with the intention of, I had always wanted to, the travel bug came back in me, and I've always wanted to travel the West Coast. So I was like, this is a great opportunity. So yeah, I was thinking, yeah, this is a great opportunity to finally travel and road trip around the West Coast, and I'll get into astro in long exposure photography, and still go on scuba diving trips, in California and all of that. And then I was back in Florida in 3 months. So obviously that was, as you can imagine, that was a big turning point. Very, yeah, huge turning point for me. That re- that relationship, the end of that relationship it was definitely the hardest the hardest breakup, the hardest heartbreak that I've ever had in my life, that I've had to deal with. However, it also pushed me to grow spiritually in ways that I never saw coming. Um, my ex pushed me in ways as well that really, once we ended things, and we're like, I remember. Sorry.
Okay. Take your time.
Right before I left Nevada, I remember one of the things he said to me was, because we knew, like, we both still, we both loved each other, and we still do, but one of the things he knew that I wasn't staying true to myself anymore. It got to a point where I was living his life.
Mm-hmm.
It was very obvious. It was very obvious to a lot of my friends, too. Like when one of my friends told me, she's like, very quickly after I left, she was like, I was very surprised that you moved to Nevada. And I was like, she was like, that's just not you. That's not who I've known you to be. All of your signs were pointing towards the ocean, and one of the things. So we knew, I wasn't in alignment with myself anymore. Um, and one of the things he said to me right before I left was, "You need to go and be a photographer." And so that's what I did. I went back to who I am, and back to staying to my passions. When I left, I had nothing. Like my dad pointed out to me, and he's one of those dads that kind of is into tough love a little bit, and likes to give you a kick in your butt whenever he thinks you need it. And one of the things he said to me over the phone was, which is another story, but I didn't really need to hear this at the time, but he was right, was when I left Nevada, I had no job, I had no money, I had no home, I had nothing. But then on the flip side of it, I was sitting on the ocean one day with one of my good friends, and he told me, he's like, you have nothing, but he's like, that's the most beautiful thing. He's like, you have a blank slate right now. You can create anything that you want.
To all those people that think that they have nothing, know that you have a blank slate.
Yes.
It's sometimes so important to go towards what we think we want, and even with love, and give love to love, and love, and create those possibilities and opportunities that we want to create with our partners. But oftentimes we get lost in the identity of ourselves versus the identity that we've created in that relationship, that gets intertwined with things that are not in alignment with us, but which is so important because it takes us out of our comfort zone, it takes us out of our alignment so that we can actually take a step back, see something different, and realize how strong we feel about something when it is in our alignment. And that's how we go back towards it and explore it even deeper. And that's when it becomes settled into our bodies and minds. And that is so essential for people to understand right now, especially with COVID and everything happening and all the mental health issues and everybody feeling so hopeless and lonely. It is not the end, it is actually just the beginning of a beautiful story that you can rewrite and recreate. So you came back to Miami and actually decided to accept a job offer that finally Asher was able to give you and you said yes to. And you came to Utila and you made your life what it is now, little by building your self-confidence, your personal practice in healing not only your heart, which was broken. It's always hard to mend a broken heart, but to also get back to your meditation on a daily basis and to get back to your yoga on a daily basis, which can, you know, sometimes we think, oh, my spiritual awakening is in meditating more, but no, it's actually in combining all these different parts of us that connect mind, body, spirit, and all the other realms of being that we have within ourselves. So I commend you for that. That's very big, and you actually ended up writing this wonderful story on which got the cover page in this beautiful magazine called The Divers, which is the North American version and not the UK version. What was that article all about?
Sure. So yeah, everything. So one of my main goals for last year, professionally, because to back up just a slight bit, I think the spiritual work is just as important as your professional work. It goes hand in hand. And one of my goals last year was to get something published in print. And so finally being at a job where I could dive on a daily basis and I had all of these, amazing people that became amazing connections and they led me to other people, that's how this works. Connections are everything. And especially in journalism, the more people you have to ask questions to reach out to, the better, obviously. So I started writing stories pretty much as soon as I got to Utila. I had already had many experiences, or I've had, written many stories over the years, but focusing on ocean journalism, I was finally in a place where I could do that, where I could, photograph and write and everything. So I started writing stories. And then my idea was like, at first I was thinking I need a blog. So I was starting to post stories on my blog. And then I realized, what, to get something actually published, I'm just going to reach out to people. I'm going to Google, dive publications, different, because this is a niche, I reached out to dive publications and was like, hey, pitching them story ideas. And they're like, the one specifically was like, no, I had a story on lionfish, for example, and the one magazine was like, no, we don't have, or we've done too many lionfish stories already. However, I took a look at your blog, your website, and you wrote a short piece on stony coral tissue loss disease. He's like, I find this very interesting. Could you possibly expand on this and provide high resolution images? And I was like, absolutely. Didn't hear back from him for like a couple months, and I was finally like, I followed up with him and I was like, hey, like pitching him more of the idea. I'm like, I'm in the perfect place to do this story because I live on an island where it literally just hit the year that I got here. So stony coral tissue loss disease is a coral disease that has spread since 2014. It started, ironically for me, off the coast of Miami and has since spread throughout the entire Caribbean. It hit Roatan, so Honduras has three main Bay Islands. Yeah, the Bay Islands, three big islands. It hit Roatan first in 2020. And then last year in June, so June of 2021, it hit Utila. And so I pitched him this idea. I was like, hey, like, I'm here, like, it just hit the island. They're starting treatments. They're, monitoring for it, this and that. So he was like, absolutely, like, write us an article, 1,500, 2,000 words, and we'll publish it. And I was like, okay. And so I started reaching out to my contacts, got an amazing opportunity, invite to go to Cayos Cochinos and to be part of the volunteer group that is run there. And so I got to go there for an entire week and basically, get all the information and the photographs I needed for the story. Came back, wrote up the story, submitted it, and a couple weeks later, the editor emails me and he's like, the story is absolutely amazing, the photographs are amazing. He's like, I actually think this is a really amazing topic that people really need to hear about. And he's like, we're gonna make it the cover story. And I was like, I was amazed. I was just so, yeah, I couldn't believe when I read that email. I was just like, wow.
It's interesting how one thing happens and then it kind of trickles down and the journey shows itself.
Amazing. It's incredible. Like, looking back on it, it's one of those things, like in life you have achievements, you have goals, and then when you reach those goals, they feel amazing, but then you look back on everything that led you to that goal, and that's where the tears come.
Yeah.
That's where the chills come. Looking back on those things.
The beginning of any journey is the idea that we keep on striving to create it, and you've created a wonderful ocean journalist title for yourself,
yes.
which
it's becoming real.
It
is real.
It is real.
It is real. I'm still getting used to it. But it is. It's real.
What would you like people to be more aware of? Because this whole journey has been kind of a revelation of the world around you to come and discover more of yourself, right? What would you like people to know or to keep in mind when they're going and making their plans for their own journeys?
To stay 100%, to stay true to yourself. And what I like to say is trust your heart. It is your natural compass. It will guide you to where you need to be, always.
Would you say that every time you hit a roadblock or a challenge, you came back to center within yourself to find the answer?
100%. 100%.
And in this healing journey that you've been on, or in this life journey that you've been on without knowing the destination. Would you say that maybe it's leaning in with curiosity and with hope to realign every time to the person that you truly are inside and discover?
Yeah, I think it's gotten it just you get stronger and stronger in ways that you don't even know are possible. Like you can't even see it from where you're at. You know, it's like being on the other side of the door. You know the door is there, but you have no idea what's on the other side of it until you open it. And I think the opening is coming back home to yourself, coming back to what makes you truly happy and what you know to be your truth as well.
And I think if it wasn't for all those wonderful people that were in your life and those challenges that you had, you wouldn't be where you are.
Oh yeah, 100%. Every person, every decision. Obviously, you know, some people have a bigger impact than others, but also too, it's funny. You never know when you're going through any process, but especially a healing process. The most interesting people you had no idea will help you through that healing process. Like the couple of friends that were really center to my healing. First of all, a couple of them I hadn't even met yet. The other couples were people, you know, I was friends with, but I wasn't like best friends with. And they helped me heal and grow in ways that, you know, I didn't expect it from them. But it was also because they were going through something similar. And so it was like magnets, you know, the universe brought us together for that time, for that specific reason. And then now we've you know, obviously diverged on our own paths again, and we're all still friends, but not like, you know, I haven't talked to them in months, but I know they're there, and they were pivotal to my healing during that period of my life. But yeah, you just never know who, when you meet somebody or the friends that you have, you just never know what role they're gonna play in your life. So being present with people that are in your life, I think is so important.
I love that. Presence for me is so essential to being able to lean in with curiosity to those moments that you would think are not going to bring you anything, yet those are the crucial moments that bring major change and that spark something inside and that light up that amber in our hearts. And I think it's that invisible string that connects our hearts and helps us walk each other home, and the projections and the gifts that we bring to this world by allowing ourselves to get curious.
Yeah, and I love that.
And to
I love
explore.
that quote. I forgot about that quote, but walking each other home.
Rooming.
Yeah,
You know.
I absolutely love that quote.
Agreed. It's about the journey and not the destination.
Yes.
Once again, it just keeps on coming back to that.
Yeah.
And I like that we brought that up, because right now a lot of people are having a lot of very difficult journeys or challenging journeys, yet they don't really realize that these journeys are part of their growth. Unfortunately, we don't see it when we're in the middle of it and the challenges, and we're like, oh my God, can this just be over? But it cannot be over until we actually gain those lessons and question ourselves and give ourselves the time to process the information that's happening, very often we go from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. But you gave yourself that little bit of processing time in between
Yes.
each of those slots of life to be able to come back and realign and recenter and ground so that you come back to your natural compass.
Yes.
Now, if you would like to get in touch with Nicole and have her maybe take some pictures of you if you're in Utila, or have a wonderful conversation about the story, the coral tissue disease that we have here and all along the coast from Miami to the Latin Americas. Or if you'd like her to write something or work in affiliation with you, please give her a shout out. She is on Instagram, and her Instagram is.
My Instagram is my.naturalcompass.
And you can find her article in LinkedIn, in the link.
My link tree,
right?
my link tree on my Instagram bio. The article is, you can purchase the online version. You can also subscribe to the magazine itself. It's Diver Mag, North America's Diver magazine, not the UK version. So
There are so many things that I still want to talk about, but unfortunately for this episode, I think this is going to be it. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening in. Keep in mind that it's the journey, not the destination. The beginning of any journey is the idea that we keep on striving to create and to explore. And the opportunities that you have are opportunities because you lean in with curiosity, not because you shy away. And often what is waiting for us is much grander than what we think, just if we take that step towards the unknown and allow that to flourish and bloom as it's supposed to, not as we try to control it.
Controlling is
never a thing. Is there anything else that you would like to leave with the listeners? Something that encompasses all that you stand for and this healing journey that you had? And
just always remember to be in love with yourself first and foremost.
I love that.
Because that is the longest relationship you will ever have in your life, is the relationship between you and your inner being.
I love it. So true. Always coming back to oneself instead of focusing on everybody else's journey. Get off of Instagram and social media. Make your own reality.
Take yourself on dates.
Yes, and discover what those dates are that actually make you vibrate, make your heart strong, make that amber burn brighter, and spread that around you. When you are in center and in alignment with yourself, everybody else around you will be kind of magnets to you, and you will be attracting everything that is meant for you. So make your life happen for you. On that note, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I wish you a great morning, great afternoon, or a good night wherever you are in the world. Stay blessed and talk to you soon.